Every single moment of this film, every time it was just like, what? Oh my gosh, something crazy here. What the heck? Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh, what the heck's happening? Oh, this is crazy. Ah! This movie goes bananas. Love it. Hey everyone, welcome back to Mr. Teach Film Preach, and we are going to continue with what my wife likes to call the Halloween Hangover series. And I had so much fun with these films and with this series. Revenge is a horror thriller mind trip of a film story about a young woman who goes on a romantic getaway vacation with her boyfriend, and while she is there, some of his friends decide to show up and they decide to go on a hunting trip. And while the friends are there visiting, some things begin to go sour very quickly, and there is a brutal attack on our character of Jen, and she is left for dead. And that is how this film begins, on this crazy trip down a road that leads to revenge and brutal violence and brutality and what someone will do to enact their own justice. People don't write films for, good roles for women. Watch this movie. Now, I'm not saying that women are getting the same opportunities as men in film, and especially in the past. I mean, it's getting better now, but it's still not the same. But I can point to some other films like Kill Bill, a TV show like Buffy the Vampire Slayer, characters in the Marvel Cinematic Universe like Black Widow. I mean, Joss Whedon is behind a couple of those. Good for you, Joss Whedon. People want to see women kick ass. I've always loved that. I've always been a fan of it. I remember when Kill Bill came out, it was like, yeah, get it, Uma Thurman. And I felt the same way in this film. And in fact, the filmmaker of this movie, she took inspiration from both Kill Bill and Rambo. And you can definitely see that in this film. The transformation that happens to the character of Jen in this film is really well done, because at first, they over sexualize her, and kind of a commentary on that. You get to really go on this transformational journey with her, from this sort of ditzy bimbo girl sucking a lollipop getting off the helicopter into this revenge fueled rage woman committing crazy acts of violence. And seeing that transformation, both physically and mentally in her, is what is the heart of this film. It's what's brilliant about this film. The writing, the style, how they decided to shoot this film. Visually, it's beautiful, and at times very haunting and disturbing because it's quite gory and bloody, but it's beautiful. It's really well shot. It feels like a little bottle episode that is set within this desert and this house in the middle of nowhere. It's these three guys and this against this girl, and it is so riveting. And the acts of violence are brutal and bloody. And be careful before you see this film. Warning for all those who are about to see this movie. A lot of blood in this film, and a lot of gory images, and parts that you're wincing. You're like, oh my gosh, oh no, oh please stop, oh please stop. At one point I was like, stop. When she gets stuck on a tree at one point, her and on her side, you see the impaled stick coming out of her side, and she has to deal with that. And watching her try and get herself off of it, and then have to deal with it in the cave. And some of the visual images, especially when she's tripping on, is really well done and so vividly beautiful, and shot very sharp but very colorful too. And as the film progresses, she just becomes more and more strong and cold and dark, and becomes a lot hardened compared to what she was an hour earlier in the film. So that is what is so amazing about this flick. This is a take on the horror genre, but it's also a pure revenge film. But the way it's done, and there's a lot of revenge films out there already, but the way this one is done, again, it's a fresh take. It's a really cool perspective. This is her directorial debut. That is amazing. To have this film as your directorial debut, bravo. Good for you, woman. Good for you. And thank you for writing a character that doesn't just become a victim, that fights for what she wants and survival, basically, but survival and also to get her justice. And she serves it up on a dish served cold. Coralie Fargeat directed the hell out of this movie. She shot it beautifully. She did a great job with developing this character that has to go through such traumatic and horrific moments that we watch and we experience and we witness with her and we experience with her. And so we understand her needing her revenge and wanting to get back at these guys who committed this horrible act. She does such a fantastic point of view that's told from her perspective, and you really get on her side from the get-go, and a great director will do that for their protagonist. Even if you don't necessarily like her at the beginning, she transforms and becomes this character that you're really cheering for. You really want her to get her revenge. Some of the filmmaking choices are wonderful. The sound effects, at one point she is stuck on the tree and the blood dripping off of her hand and hitting the ground sounds like bombs dropping, and it's like hitting an ant that's crawling underneath her, and it's almost the blood's like drowning the ant. A close-up shot of the ant getting hit by the blood, and sounds like bombs are going off around it. Really interesting way. All it is just showing that there's ants where she is stuck on this tree, impaled by this tree, but it does it in such a vivid way and does it such an imaginative way. The music at times created great suspense, and also the lack of created this atmosphere of tension and of bewilderment. Sometimes I was like, I cannot believe what I'm watching right now. This is crazy. The amount of nudity in this film, there's a lot. There's a lot of butt shots. There's a lot of naked people running around with blood all over them, carrying a shotgun, wielding some sort of weapon. The girl who plays Jen, who plays our protagonist, wow. This woman does an amazing performance. Such a hard role. Please, any female actresses out there, would you, seriously watch this movie? Would you take this role? I almost guarantee you that 99.9% of people would not do this, or would not do as good of a job as she does. Give this woman a nomination for something. I don't know what kind of horror, thriller, movie award ceremonies there are, but give this woman the Best Actress performance because she deserves it. It is one of the most difficult female performance roles because she goes through some brutal scenes. This character goes through the ringer and has to fight and survive and do horrible things to live and make it believable. My wife said to me, it's like Barbie Rambo. And yeah, it is. And I even said it's got that sort of style to it where she's just kicking ass, taking names and trying to outsmart everyone. But there's some real weight to this movie too. Like you are cheering for her, but you never feel safe for her. She never feels like she is 100% in control and owning the situations, but she is fighting to constantly get out of the situations and has to take out one guy at a time and able to outsmart them and outdo them both physically and mentally. There's some parts in this film that are really difficult to watch, and it's probably one of the things that, not a downfall of this film, but just beware. Just this is kind of a warning about the violence and the amount of blood. Holy crap, you guys. It's a lot. It's a lot. The violence is over the top on purpose. People will probably have complained and will complain about this flick being too violent and too gory and graphic and stuff, but I mean, it's not trying to fantasize this violence. This film doesn't glamorize or glorify the violence, but instead it kind of it doesn't poke fun at it, but really goes over the top. And so that way it really seems crazy and almost unbelievable, but still enough that you're invested into the story and into her struggle. I was on the edge of my seat moments I've had in a long time watching a flick, and they pulled it off in spades. And again, I've mentioned this in my Midsommar review, but just horror movies in general, you have a hard time agreeing or getting on board with some of the decisions these characters make, because they usually make them very, very dumb, or the decisions that they make don't make sense. And so I have a hard time buying into it and really getting on board with them. And this film doesn't have too much of that, but there are a couple of key moments where you're like, they just did this, it would be a totally different scenario. And most likely they would have done that if this was real life. But for the sake of this movie, that's okay, because overall the script is pretty solid. Even if it's just a revenge film, the way that they pulled off this film is great. It wasn't necessarily the story itself, but the way they told the story, the visual aspects, the sound effects, the action, the tensity, the visceral images, and wonderful color scheme that this movie has overall makes this movie a really enjoyable experience, even if at sometimes it's hard to watch. But I think you will enjoy this if you love revenge films, if you love women just kicking ass and taking names, if you love a really compelling way to tell a story visually and emotionally, and a really great way to get invested in this character. I was so surprised by it. Going into it kind of skeptical, and I was getting really sick of some horror movies and some thriller films, and hadn't really seen a good action thriller adventure in a while, and this came around the corner, and I watched it one time on Netflix before they took it off, and I was pleasantly surprised, as you guys will be. Go check out this film. Just be careful with some of the violence that happens throughout this film. I'm gonna go ahead and give Revenge an A. Yes, good job, Revenge. I'm so happy for this film, and it does such a great job. This movie didn't quite hit an A+. I couldn't put it in that category, and I so wanted to. I wish I had a category between A and A+, but unfortunately I don't, and that's okay. A little bit more seclusive and selective about which films I am placing in the A+ in the top of the class category. So as much as I wanted to, this film receives an A grade. It still makes it one of the best films I saw in 2017, and I absolutely loved it. I appreciate you checking out these videos and my Halloween Hangover series. So thanks so much for checking it out. Click down below right here if you liked it to subscribe, click like or comment. What's another amazing heroine, female, kicking ass, taking no names movie that you guys like? Because this definitely has to be at the top of that list, and I would love to hear some other ones I could possibly review in the future. Anyways, thanks so much for watching, you guys. Please click down below if you like this video. Come back for some more Mr. Teach Film Preach videos, and as always, let's get taught.